All right, looks like we're live. Hope everyone's doing really good today. Welcome to Wisdom of Experts. This is a new approach to authenticating the carbon credit. I'm Kate from Open Forest Protocol, and we will go around and introduce ourselves as well, and you can get to know some of our panelists today. Aureline, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Aureline, co-founder and chief climate officer at Open Forest Protocol. And I might just introduce rapidly OFP for those who doesn't know what we do. So in very short, we provide MRV tools. So this stands for measurement, reporting, and verification tools, with the objective of enabling projects all over the world to access and create high integrity carbon credits. And our end objective here is really to be able to scale nature-based climate solutions for our planet. So we provide a very unique approach to credit authentication, and this is why we're here together today, and we're happy to really discuss this all together. It will be a fun topic, and normally very interesting topic.
Wonderful. Romain, do you want to go next?
Of course. Thanks, Kate. So I'm Romain. I'm the co-founder of Kanop and CEO. My background is in technology and impact. I've co-founded Kanop a bit more than 2 years ago. And at Kanop, our mission is to improve transparency and trust on the voluntary carbon market. And to do so, we support upstream players in the value chain, such as project developer, bringing them affordable and accurate and trustable data so that they can be shared and used to certify the impact of their action. And for that, our technology relies on satellite images and AI to produce the metrics of interest. So that's a short introduction of Kanop.
Wonderful. I'll go down to Matthew.
Hi, everyone. My name's Matthew Kleinenberg. I'm a director and founder of a company called GTMIS. It's an acronym for Geographic Tree Inventory Management Systems. And we practice arboriculture. We consult in trees in the urban environment. And that involves a multitude of different aspects. Along with that, we work down in sort of the southern African region between South Africa and Botswana and up to Uganda and so on, Angola. And we assist our clients in managing their trees and managing risk, litigation, and managing the resource as a whole in the urban environment.
Amazing. Geza, bring us home.
Hi, everyone, and thank you for having me here today. So my name is Geza Toth. I'm advisor at OFP and the CEO of CarbonSpace.tech. My background is in carbon accounting, carbon financial mechanism. I'm an agronomist myself, and I spent 15 years with Ferrero, Barry Callebaut, and similar chocolate and confectionery producer CGM companies, where I was mainly responsible for carbon and forest program development. This is what brought me to the space of monitoring. I've been responsible for projects that develop in offsetting on the ground, and I was looking for the right MRV tool, and when I found it, I just moved on, and that's how I landed at CarbonSpace. At CarbonSpace, we are monitoring with a quite unique tech stack, net ecosystem exchange, carbon flux of land use. So basically how much carbon is released, how much carbon is sequestered. And that's what I would like to talk about today, how it relates to the value proposition of OFP and progressive carbon credit generation.
Wonderful. Thank you all for being here again. And I guess to kick the conversation off, we know that our current climate situation is not the best. Things are heating up, things are getting serious. Time to act is now. And so when it comes to carbon, why is the authentication of carbon as an asset and as a value proposition so important? And why is this the pivotal moment, or has been even the pivotal moment, but why is this the pivotal moment? to authenticate carbon in the right manner and in a transparent manner? I guess is my first question to all of you. So whoever wants to go, you can just kick it off.
Should I go first? Okay. Yeah, I think like we're in this time right now where we have a lot of like consciousness about what we need to do for our climate. So we have a lot of commitments from companies that are saying, okay, we want to offset our emissions, reduce our emissions, of course, first, and then offset them. And these offsets are done with carbon credits. And so the carbon credits that are used by these corporations really need to be of high quality, high integrity, and they need to be very transparent, in our opinion. So we've seen like in the past 20 years, the VCM, so the voluntary carbon market, evolve. We've had some great projects that have been like protecting, reforesting the planet. And these carbon credits have been used. We've seen also some kind of controversy on certain projects. And most of the controversy that came up was also very much because of the lack of transparency. And I think it's normal because at like 20 years ago, we didn't have all the tools that we have right now, right? The remote sensing tech that we now have available that is not too expensive. And Romain can talk a lot more about this also, just of course, and Matthew, because they're experts at this. But I think, yeah, the new technology that we now have and that is available is definitely very important to increase the transparency, the frequency of the monitoring, and also make sure that the projects are accountable for what they do, basically. And if projects are incentivized to be transparent, if projects are incentivized to monitor their projects very regularly, the quality will definitely increase. So I think like there's a lot that can be done to improve like the quality of the carbon credits, to make sure that like the projects that we develop all together and how we verify the credits and so on is done on a very high level of quality, because this is like for us like the very important part, because it's the only way we will remove also carbon from the atmosphere. Like this will happen with high quality projects. So yeah.
And yeah, thanks, Aureline. I think you said a lot. It's a great introduction. I maybe to go a bit further, that this reported quality, this proven quality, I think it's required today to attract new investors, to attract more funds, basically, to those projects. If we want to solve the climate crisis, one of the way, and it's been demonstrated by the IPCC, is to leverage nature. And so we need more funds, but we need like more funds big times compared to what we have today. And clearly, if we want to attract new investor, new company, new organization, we clearly need to prove this impact, and that can only be done through technology, because it needs to be done at scale and in a affordable way. So it's regular.
Yeah, I think moving on from that, the reporting is so important, because we're trying to make real change by incorporating carbon credits into the world, and the funding that goes into them, is to support these projects. And if we inaccurately reporting on these projects, it means that the real change that we think is happening is not happening, and the impact the positive impact that's meant to be happening isn't happening. So these types of projects that and the reporting and the transparency that builds trust, and the diversity, and using different technologies and different cultures and people, and it all adds to a team that can make real difference and change in time.
I absolutely agree with you. I think there is a lot of issues to tackle, and the carbon financial mechanisms where they are today, it's still prone with many stepwise, let's say, problems to tackle, starting from baselining, but all the way to monitoring. We still locked in with 5-year monitoring steps. We could bring it down to 2 years, 1 year, but this is still not a common practice. And it's not only baselining, but the land tenure, the land mapping, the ground truthing, all these, they are missing from most of the projects. So rightfully, there is a lot of criticism out there in media, and it's spreading really well. That yeah, there are issues. I think we are just the beginning of recognizing what these issues are. But let's get it straight. Today, we can monitor every plot. We don't need to take, let's say, sluggish samples and then extrapolate from there. We can do it at 30-meter resolution, 10-meter resolution. We can monitor every tree. And we have to involve public, not only the various sensors and artificial intelligence, but public. With the right combination, we can produce credible projects.
Those are all great responses. And I love the theme of team that's coming out of this across cultures, across different geographic locations, is this sense of teamwork. And so I guess we're all bringing different technologies to the pool. So we'd like to hear about that now. So if we could definitely hear from the validators about, what is the technology you're bringing? What makes it unique? I heard AI thrown around. I know CarbonSpace. What are these names? This is so cool. Tell us.
So maybe I can kickstart on that. So technologies are available today that were available before, but we don't use them. And of course, there's new tech. And then there's the question how we combine these together. So at CarbonSpace, we rely on digital images, so multispectral satellite images that are available in various resolutions, and they are developing with the speed of light. And you can link that with the ground sensors. We specifically focus on the carbon flux towers with eddy covariance stations, which basically measure the carbon flux, how much carbon is sequestered by the land, how much carbon is released after disturbances or forest fires, if you like, or deforestation, any kind of release activities. So you can combine these in a way that you use machine learning. You can bring in hundreds, thousands, and different plots for various land cover use, and let the machine learning algorithms figure out what are the common parameters. Same way about the carbon flux towers. There are representative realities in the world. We don't need to put flux towers everywhere, although we do that too. We install flux towers, but the combination of the ground sensoring and the remote sensed allows us to have some very, very high resolution and rather accurate understanding of how much carbon is sequestered, and that on a monthly basis. The good thing is we have this data available for the past, so we can do baselining and we can look at various nature-based solutions and apply these technologies even in West Africa or in Indonesia or say in Latin America or places in the world that are not very well covered with tech, but even difficult to reach on foot or by boat. So that's the power of remote sense technologies. We can really land it anywhere on steep slopes or in the middle of mangroves. I will say a few more examples later as we get into some OFP related cool projects.
I can continue to maybe tell more about what we do at Kanop. So at Kanop, we focus not on fluxes, but we focus more on stock and on stock changes of biomass and other key indicators about the impact of forestry projects. So we focus on afforestation, reforestation, but also avoided deforestation projects. At Kanop, we're using optical multispectral images as well as radar images. And we're using those images to compute at a very fine resolution, at 10-meter resolution. And it can be anywhere on the ground. We can predict indicators such as above ground biomass, carbon stock, canopy height, tree height, forest cover. And obviously, we can compute the data every year, but also changes between 2 years. And that's clearly new. What's particularly new is that we don't necessarily need localized ground truthing, thanks to AI and training with a super vast amount of data all across the world. What's also new is that we produce data in a scalable way, meaning that from the moment the customer requests the data to delivery, there is no input, there is no time required, manual time, I mean, from the team, because we have automated the entire processing, and that's new. And that's very important, because that's how you bring this data fast and in an affordable way, by removing all the friction that usually, that you usually have when producing those data sets. So using a lot of AI and the right infrastructure to deliver the data in a scalable way. That's how I would describe Kanop's technology today. But happy to answer any question or to go into more detail if that's relevant, Kate.
Yeah, and then
Thank you.
from our side, as I alluded to at the start, we deal in arboriculture, so we deal with trees in the built environment. And technologies we're utilizing at the moment, utilizing various GIS technologies, remote sensing and modeling. And then, we're getting into the drones and monitoring on an annual basis, sites, etc. And this can be from the Okavango Delta, where there are camps, through to the middle of the city. So those are the types of technologies we're using, and we're plotting and we're tracking and we're building up history on various trees and projects. So it's a new approach. It's a different approach to managing trees in the urban environment, I would say. And then we bring that sort of that intellectual property into our validation processes. We understand that we need to understand what species are being planted in certain regions and climatic zones. We understand growth rates of those areas. Those things add into the research of what we're doing behind the scenes to understand, and going forward to assist us in validating data and making sure it's true. We're using measuring tools to measure and make sure that the data that's coming in is valid and is correct. So yeah, it's some technology from what we do on an everyday basis, and we're trying to bring it into how we validate data through the OFP.
And maybe to, I think on the technology side, it's amazing what's coming next, really. Because what we can do today wasn't doable at all, even imaginable, like 5 years ago. And what came up is new data sources, new satellites, open data satellites, open source satellites, but also commercial constellations that are coming up that are amazing. And also the AI evolves really fast. We've all seen ChatGPT, obviously. It surprised like most of the people, actually. And so in the coming years, with the evolution of AI, with the new data sources, more granular, more frequent, it's going to be amazing. I think we haven't seen anything compared to what we're going to be able to do in the coming year, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all getting me excited. So thinking of all these technologies together, this is a great bridge into OFP. Aureline, if you kind of want to, talk about like why are we all here in this one webinar together? If we're all doing cool different stuff, like why are we all here?
Yeah, that's a very cool question, Kate. So I think we can, just explain a little bit how OFP's validation and authentication of carbon credits works, because it's a very unique setup. And this is pretty new. Nobody is doing it other than OFP for the moment. So let me briefly explain. So OFP provides a very new approach to carbon authentication, where basically all the ground data and the monitoring data that is collected by the projects on the ground is evaluated by multiple of organizations. So for the moment, we have 24 validators that are checking each monitoring stage, the data that is collected by the projects. And this is very different from what is done in other like registry or standards, because normally you just have one third party that is evaluating, verifying the data that comes from the ground and the data that is used to issue the carbon credits. And so this is where OFP is kind of revolutionizing this system. So you have multiple third parties, multiple eyes, people of different skills, company that can go on the ground, but also company that have access to remote sensing tech that are evaluating the same data sets and just like saying, okay, this data set that comes from the ground seems legit, or no, there's something that's going wrong in this project. And OFP's like monitoring technology is also way more frequent than what it exists. So the projects need to upload data every 6 months for the first 2 years, and then it's every year. So there's a really rigorous process that these projects need to follow. And every 6 months, every year, their data gets checked. And in this way, we're able to identify way faster if something is going wrong in the project. All the data is also stored on a blockchain. So it's you can see the blockchain as just a database that's public, visible, immutable, that you cannot change. So the projects are really incentivized to upload like true data, because this will be visible to anyone. It can't be hidden. And this is what we innovated upon, because in most of the carbon projects that you can see right now, it's very difficult to access the data that was collected on the ground, like extract all the information, like the models that they used to calculate the carbon stocks, for instance. And this is not the case on OFP. Everything is transparent. Projects are incentivized to upload really like truth, ground data. And if they don't, then it's like they'll get a bad reputation for their organization publicly. So I think this incentivization of like truth, this validation, verification that is done by multiple third party at the same time, skilled with different set of skills. Like you can see right now with CarbonSpace, Kanop, and GTMIS, you all have like different skills in forests, but you all have a specific eye, and can identify if something is going wrong in the projects. So that's what OFP brings as a added value in terms of like increased frequency, increased transparency for the carbon credits.
Absolutely. And moving on to, I was hearing from the validators' perspective. So we have 3 of our prominent validators here today. And what drew you into OFP, especially in the terms of we're able to open access to forest monitoring for any project around the world. It's a free and open system. And so what drew you as a validator, as a leader in the technology field, to join this initiative and say, we want to provide this, and we also want to be a part of this? Whoever wants to go first.
I can go. I can tell you about one of the reasons. One of the reasons we've joined OFP is the fact that they enable any project to access the carbon markets. By any project, I mean even small scale projects. If you look at the framework today, only large scale projects can really access the carbon market, because the entry cost is quite high. We're talking often about $50,000, $100,000 to get started on this market. That's way too high. We need to find solutions to enable any project owner, any project developer, any land owner to access this market. And that's what OFP enables, and that's what we really like with OFP. And as a matter of fact, when you look at the project, some of the projects are really small, and that's great. We need millions of initiatives like this one. So that's one of the things we really like.
Yeah, I think going on from that is, being in the space that we are in, we all want to make a positive change somehow. And to be associated and to assist in a project like the OFP that's sort of pushing the boundaries of transparency and how things are being done, and the difference potentially that this will make in the future. I think it aligns both with what our companies are trying to do, but also on a personal level. To be part of a diverse team from of people around the world, and to try and add value where possible. Yeah.
One aspect that that brought me to OFP before OFP even existed. It was a couple of years ago when I saw that various tokens hit the market, and they claim they have the chance to change the world, but there was nothing about sustainability, nothing about carbon. And I was wondering, okay, where is the credible solution? And at that time, at my past job, at the corporate, I was kind of doing some benchmarking and trying to pull a few people together to see why this doesn't hit the market. And then OFP appeared, and I also changed the roles, and specifically from CarbonSpace point of view, we worked a lot on our market acceptance. So we targeted accredited standards who accepted our methodology, working with verification bodies. We got certified, verified, and worked with blockchain-based standards. But at OFP, we have a very special case, because being part of the validator group, it helps. It is the best for market acceptance. We see how our data, our consideration relates to others, whether it matches or not, and that on an ongoing base. So it's really the best to be in a validator team where we can learn from each other. And I think OFP does probably the most professional platform today, so that you can bring these validators together.
Yeah, and maybe just to jump on this, I think one of the core value that we have at OFP is that we cannot solve the climate situation we are in if we are just alone. So I think it's super important that we all collaborate together, that we all bring our strengths, and it's this way that we will make it happen. Like, we will go way faster if we combine all the skills of these different organizations, the validators, the project operators, and so on. So that's really, and it's been super, super exciting to see that, like, you guys are also super open to collaborating with a company like us, and to build this network, this community of companies and of projects that really want to do good. So I guess, like, this is how we can also scale. And maybe just, Kate, to jump on the question that we got about the use of profits generated from carbon credits. I think Romain had mentioned that with OFP, we're able to onboard also way smaller projects than the projects that are onboarded on the other standards and the registries. So if we think about what can be done right now on the other standards, you most probably need a project of a few thousand hectares to make it viable, because of all the upfront costs that you have and so on. With OFP, there's no upfront cost. And so this is done really to enable people, also local communities, indigenous people, but also large-scale projects to access carbon financing. And we've seen like super cool projects in Africa, in South America, that didn't have access to the VCM and to like carbon financing. And when you talk to them, they're like, wow, I can now like just get revenue from growing a forest instead of selling it for timber. And it's combining all these small projects of very high quality that are doing like agroforestry, reforestation, that are regenerating what they have unfortunately destroyed previously, that will enable to access also massive scale. So when we think about the profits from these carbon credits, I think that OFP is kind of like removing a lot of intermediaries and helping local communities, indigenous people, access also this revenue from carbon finance. And of course, we can also onboard larger organizations that are already developing carbon projects and so on. But it's a way more inclusive system where like revenue can go to local communities directly. You don't have to have a huge project operator developing a huge project and so on. So we have a lot of like, groups of farmers, for example, thousands of farmers that are like grouped together for a project. And that's, and they potentially can receive revenue from carbon finance to just regenerate the land. and like give this land to their children, a biodiverse forest instead of a biodegraded land, basically. So yeah, hopefully this revenue will scale the nature-based solutions for the next like 10, 20, 30, 50 years or more.
And Aureline, what you just pointed out, I think it's very important. We see from smaller farming, smallholder, people, communities who work underground, and they have a willingness to contribute to mitigation adaptation, but they just believe they cannot benefit from any kind of financial mechanism because they're way too small, and they need middlemen who will be expensive. So there is absolutely no thought about that. But we realize that OFP has a great potential to increase transparency and reduce the complexity and uncertainty of nature-based solution projects, and inherent to a separate measurement of each carbon pool. So if you manage to simplify it and bring this directly to the people who only need to have access to say to a mobile phone, not even to internet, and that is spreading with the speed of light, even in West Africa in projects where we worked with. That's the way to go. I think the reputation, the credibility of these projects will reach people on the ground.
Yeah, definitely, totally agree.
Wonderful. The remainder, Matthew, do you have anything else to add to this topic at all, or we can go to our final question? All good. All has been said. Perfect. Okay, then the final question, which is, I think, well, one of, I imagine, hope and prosperity, I hope, is what's your future for a greener world? Like looking forward, as Aureline just mentioned, you know, we have like 30, 50 years down the line, projects around OFP, we're validating. What's the vision? What do you see? Yeah, whoever wants to take it first.
I can take it.
Right.
Matthew, you want to go?
Yeah, I'm happy to go. Look, I think a green future, you know, all these, the hot keyword of sustainability, you know, but sustainability, there needs to be a balance that we need to find. You know, the world's heavily reliant on fossil fuels, and that's slowly changing. But to become too heavily reliant on one or another form of energy also has its downsides. So I think diversity without giving up productivity, you know, the world needs power, the world needs certain things, and a green future needs to embrace that technology and projects like the OFP are able to offset the detrimental pollutants or carbon emitters or those sort of manufacturing processes that are required in the world. So I think having a diverse form of how we take the world forward in terms of not being how would I word it, with not giving up what we have today, but improving it for tomorrow. So in the future, you know, future generations, you know, we custodians of the earth and we need to look after it. And I think a green future entails us looking after the environment that we live in. I think that's the most important thing. You know, without it, we have nothing. So, you know, I think bringing to the party that, you know, I think I wrote somewhere along the line, extinction becomes extinct. We stop losing the environment. We stop losing what's part of the environment and what contributes to it. But without losing how we live and the productivity that we need in the world to progress.
Thanks so much. I can go next, but I couldn't agree more. I think on this panel, we are probably all aligned, and hopefully with most of our audience. Yeah, I want. We clearly we all want a planet where we restore and conserve all of forest, wetland, grassland, and other types of ecosystem, because they are one of our crucial allies in the fight against climate change. And it's interesting to note how much those solutions can get. The IPCC says it can help us to remove or reduce up to 5 billion tons of CO2 equivalent per year. 5 billion tons of CO2 equivalent per year is more or less 10% of our anthropic emissions, which is significant, actually. So I envision a world where we achieve that number and as soon as possible. So I really, as we probably said before, we are at Kanop very happy to have joined OFP because it's I'm convinced that this initiative is a very good initiative to go into that direction. Of course, we need many more initiatives like this, but it's clearly one scalable one, and that's amazing.
I resonate with what you said, guys. The beauty of being a validator at OFP is really the complementary approach. And if they wouldn't be complementary, it's even better because, as I said, you can validate your approach against others. And here we need to collaborate. It's more than just a commercial competition. So let's say we offer big data, big picture perspective on the ecosystem, carbon flux, and biodiversity. Kanop does it in a different way. But Matthew, you work on it's also maybe more local and focusing on one or other aspect, but it's about ecosystem strength and biodiversity. And I think overall we will be able to embrace more environmental impacts, also social impacts that we can talk about it. Ultimately, that boils down to a business case. So the theory of change, I think, is not the vision in the theory of change is not about how we combine these together, but when and how long will it take? Because we can monitor nature-based solution projects in near real time. Daily activity, it can be supported by local people, but it's just not the case. We work with auditors, we send auditors on the ground, and we create jobs, but very targeted jobs. And we don't link this whole thing with the various sensory technologies. But when we do it, we don't just create new jobs and involve people and raise awareness, but eliminate human bias and errors because we are verifying each other's inputs. We enable the early detection of project failures, which is a huge importance for projects, small or big. And overall, we increase the value of truly ambitious climate action and reducing the risk of a negative reputation. So I think the task is not less than that for OFP. And I think it's a task, it's a vision that we can only achieve together. That's my take on it.
Yeah, and for me, I think my green future would be that us humans really realize that we have to reduce our emissions, because I think, unfortunately, like in this group and with our audience, we're probably like 100% all aligned on this. But I guess there's still a lot of people all around the world that haven't like acknowledged the fact that we live way above what we can emit as a person. So first of all, like there's not only corporations that need to reduce their emissions, but also like every one of us. And so in this world where we all like make an effort to reduce a little bit, as much as we can, and then we also contribute to climate action. So as like our responsibility to support climate projects, for me, it should be like kind of normal, like, okay, let's do something good for the planet. Let's support projects in Africa or in other countries and so on. And so in this world, we would like scale the funding to high quality projects on the ground. Way more people would be supporting projects. The projects would be like, yeah, high quality, verified very regularly with all the tech that we have available. People would be also employed on the ground to take care of the forest, to do the monitoring, etc., over the very long term, because it's also for us super important to have people on the ground. Because if you just have like tech, you still need to water some trees at the very beginning, right? Otherwise they don't grow. So we need people on the ground. We need people getting revenue for all this action that they do for our climate. And in this world, if we go in this direction, very probably biodiversity will increase, will reforest the planet at a scale at which is sustainable for us. And we will reinvent a little bit like how we value nature, basically, and take care of it, and see that with all that we've destroyed, like we have very negative like impacts of what we've done. So we can do our very best to reverse what we've unfortunately done up until now. But I think we have a lot to do. Like we can do a lot all together. We can scale things. We can make them more transparent. We can develop way more high quality projects. And like we've seen with numerous actors that collaboration is key. Like we all help each other out. And this is like truly essential, I think, if we want to go fast, because like we don't have a lot of time. Like we need to move, basically.
I need to add one more point to that, because I think an enabler we need to point out, corporates, uptakers, investors, people who invest into the monetized impact that we produce, or the companies itself, the technologies, they need to invest into this. So there's a place for accredited systems, but there's a place for progressive systems to encourage to keep a balance on this, so that we can invest into innovation. And if you invest into credits or projects and impacts, it's important to have both in the portfolio, because one or the other alone will not win. So it's a safe, it's a good risk mitigation, risk management approach to invest both into progressive projects as well as accredited projects, and encourage the scaling.
Yeah, and maybe I think for the moment we have a lot of funds that go to carbon credits, because this is something that we can measure for the moment. But as the technology evolves, it will be way easier to measure biodiversity in the projects. And this is also an added value of all the projects that will be developed in the future, and that will be able to track way more efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, reforestation projects, fundamentally they are in place at the moment for, the carbon side of things. However, there's a multitude of other positive factors that come from reforestation, species diversity, species that are on the brink of extinction that bounce back. There's so many different positive impacts that occur through reforestation projects, through these carbon projects, these making real change in areas that need them, and essentially globally.
Yeah, and to add on technology, the upcoming constellations of hyperspectral images will enable that. And when you look at what's available in terms of hyperspectral, today it's limited to research. It's a few satellites, not covering the entire globe, not usable in a commercial or operational mode. That's changing. And clearly, using those images, it will enable. It won't solve entirely the problem, because, of course, being on the ground, identifying tree species will still be needed, but it will be much easier to produce metrics on biodiversity at the project level in the coming semesters and years. And that's great, because what we don't want also is single tree species projects just to sequester carbon, because it does harm the environment. And of course, we want to avoid that at all costs. So tracking biodiversity is clearly of importance.
Yeah, co-benefits track.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wonderful. We are coming up on our time, but thank you all for being here and for sharing your expertise and everything that you bring to the table as a validator and as a part of the ecosystem, the community. This recording I guess this live stream will be a recording soon on our YouTube channel. And if you want to hear any information about any of these validators, you can head to the OFP website, or to, our LinkedIn, social media. It's all on there. Oh yeah, actually, wait, we have some questions. Do you want to take any questions at all? Do we have time from the panelists?
I'm up for that.
Right. We kind of touched on a few of them. Yeah. What do we think about the use of profits generated from carbon credits? This is an interesting one. With forest locations being far, assuming new projects are from rural areas, how does OFP plan to reach out to these groups of people, and how, I guess by subsequent, how do validators, how does the technology access these groups of people? That's actually a very interesting question.
Yep. So maybe I can answer for OFP here. So at OFP, we do have local teams on the ground. So people in Africa, in Kenya, people in South America, we have Colombia, Costa Rica, and so on. So we onboard projects from these countries, of course, in other countries that reach out to us. But with this local presence, we go on the ground with them very often to see the locations of the projects and so on. And a lot of it is also word of mouth. We hear a lot of projects that are saying like, oh, OFP could be very valuable to these organizations that I know. So that's also how it's going forward, like with the small local presence that we have and a lot of word of mouth. We also have contacts with larger organizations that are in touch with smaller organizations that could make a great use of OFP. So yeah, that's how we reach out to these and how we get access to these like way rural areas. And we even have a case where we are in touch with like really indigenous people. I think, Kate, I don't remember exactly where they're located, but we do have like, it's crazy, but they do have access to internet. They do find us, and I guess it will continue this way in the future as we also scale presence in Asia and so on. And for validators, maybe just one point. So we also one of the objectives is also to have local validators that are located on the ground that can go and see the project and so on. So this will evolve gradually as we onboard also more validators from South America, Africa, Asia, and so on. We'll grow the validator network like in a way that's sustainable with the number of projects that comes on and so on, to make sure that the validators are not overwhelmed with the number of data sets that they need to check every year. So this is like going slowly but surely.
Wonderful. And yeah, and if the validators want to share a little bit about, if briefly, how your technology does reach these communities, if there's maybe a technical answer, but if there's an easy way to kind of explain, how does the satellite find the plot? How does the AI go through the data? Something like that, just to give us an idea.
The satellites find everyone. It used to be at a kilometer resolution, at 100-meter resolution. Nowadays 30 and 10-meter resolution is the thing. You can go below 1 meter with various technologies, and I'm sure that there are technologies we don't know about that can go even further than that. I think what's really powerful today, the big jump that disrupts the existing say monitoring or evaluation and reporting way is that you can reach every single farmer. So especially, well, I'll say a plot. When you look for your champion, somebody who cares, it's very difficult to find these people. You need to go, you carry out interviews and so on. But when you take 10,000 plots, you measure these plots, how the carbon stock change or the carbon flux change or biogenic emission removals work there, then you can rank these areas from 1 to 10,000, and voila, you find your top 10%, your top 5% are the champion farmers. There is something to learn from. I think that's important. We can use remote sense tech not just to monitor everyone, but to find those plots, those people, individuals, because carbon and action is from people to people. Doesn't matter if it's CEO or a farmer, but we have now the skill and the tech to find the people who care, and I think that's important. They are our true champions.
Wonderful. Any other validators? Anything else to add?
Yeah, I think access to the project sites and so on is like Geza was saying, we're able to access imagery for anywhere and everywhere in the world. What resolution, that depends on, but over time that gets better and better as well as technology progresses and as accuracy improves. So in terms of from validation processes, we can backdate imagery and we can see changes over time and through remote sensing and modeling, and we're able to access any given coordinate or any given area that requires that.
Yeah, and to add some specifics about resolution, there is one US company that's planning to launch a optical constellation at a 10 centimeter resolution. It's just been approved in the US. I think the first satellite is to be launched next year, so it's happening. So that's where we are.
Yeah, the time is now. The time is now.
Indeed.
Perfect. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. I think we took a lot of the questions, and like the main points of each, I think. So unless anybody else has anything to add, I will now officially end the panel. All things considered. So yeah, once again, thank you guys for being here. Thank you for your expertise and your time with this. The recording will be available. You can learn about everybody here on our social media and our website. And yeah, have a great night or a great day wherever you may be.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kate.
Yeah, thank you very much.
It was
It's
great
great
to be on the
pleasure.
panel.